In a bustling city nestled between tall skyscrapers and busy streets, there lived a man named Samuel who had mastered the underrated art of patience and silent observation. Samuel was not a remarkable man by any outward appearance. He was of average height, had a scruffy beard, and always wore plain, nondescript clothes. But beneath this unassuming exterior, he possessed a unique gift, the ability to see the world through a different lens. Samuel had always been a quiet and introspective person. From a young age, he found solace in observing the world around him rather than participating in the fast-paced chaos of city life. As a child, while his friends were playing games and chasing after each other, Samuel would sit under a large oak tree in his backyard, watching the leaves rustle in the breeze and the ants scurry along the ground. His fascination with observation only grew as he got older. He would often visit the local park, where he would spend hours simply sitting on a bench, watching people go by. He noticed the hurried pace at which they walked, the furrowed brows, and the constant tapping of fingers on smartphones. It seemed as though everyone was in a perpetual rush to get somewhere, to do something, to achieve something. One sunny afternoon, while sitting on his favorite park bench, Samuel struck up a conversation with an elderly man who shared his interest in observation. The man's name was Mr. Jenkins, and he had a long, white beard that reached down to his chest. Mr. Jenkins had spent his entire life studying the behavior of birds in the park. As they talked, Samuel realized that Mr. Jenkins had a profound understanding of patience and silent observation. He had spent countless hours sitting quietly in the park, studying the birds' habits, their songs, and their interactions. Through his patient observations, he had become an expert on the avian life that called the park home. Inspired by Mr. Jenkins, Samuel decided to embark on a journey of his own, dedicating his life to the art of patience and silent observation. He knew that there was much to learn from the world if one took the time to truly see it. Samuel began his practice by setting aside a specific time each day for silent observation. He would find a quiet spot, away from the noise and distractions of the city, and simply sit and watch. At first, it was challenging. His mind would wander, and he would find himself getting restless. But he persevered, knowing that true mastery of this art required discipline and dedication. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Samuel's ability to observe grew sharper. He started to notice things he had never seen before, the subtle changes in the colors of the leaves as they transitioned from summer to autumn, the way the light danced on the surface of a pond, and the intricate patterns formed by raindrops on a windowpane. But it wasn't just the beauty of the natural world that Samuel observed. He also began to notice the nuances of human behavior. He observed the expressions on people's faces as they interacted with one another, the joy, the sadness, the frustration, and the love. He watched as strangers became friends, and friends became strangers. He saw the ebb and flow of life itself, all from the vantage point of his silent observation. One day, while sitting in the park, Samuel noticed a young woman who seemed lost and distraught. She was sitting on a bench, her head in her hands, tears streaming down her face. Most people walked by without a second glance, too absorbed in their own lives to notice her distress. But Samuel couldn't ignore it. He approached the young woman and asked if she was okay. She looked up, surprised that someone had taken notice of her pain. They talked for hours, and Samuel learned that her name was Emily. She had been going through a difficult time in her life, feeling overwhelmed by the pressures of work and personal relationships. Samuel didn't offer any solutions or advice, he simply listened. He let Emily pour out her feelings, and in doing so, he provided her with a safe space to be vulnerable. Emily left the park that day with a lighter heart, knowing that someone had seen her pain and had cared enough to stop and listen. This encounter with Emily reaffirmed Samuel's belief in the power of patience and silent observation. He realized that by taking the time to truly see and understand the world around him, he could make a difference in people's lives, even in small ways. Over the years, Samuel continued his practice of silent observation, becoming known as the Watcher in his community. People would seek him out when they needed someone to talk to, knowing that he would listen without judgment. Samuel became a silent pillar of strength for those around him, offering comfort and solace through his patient presence. As Samuel grew older, he often thought about the fast-paced world he had chosen to observe from the sidelines. He marveled at how so many people rushed through life without taking the time to appreciate its beauty and complexity. He knew that the art of patience and silent observation was a gift, one that allowed him to connect with the world on a deeper level and make a positive impact on those he encountered. In his later years, Samuel returned to the park where he had first met Mr. Jenkins, who had since passed away. He sat on his favorite bench, now weathered and worn, and watched as the birds went about their daily routines. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life he had chosen, for the moments of connection and understanding he had shared with others, and for the beauty he had witnessed in the world around him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, Samuel closed his eyes and listened to the gentle rustling of leaves, the chirping of crickets, and the distant laughter of children playing. He knew that the art of patience and silent observation was not just a skill, it was a way of life, a way of seeing and experiencing the world that brought him immeasurable joy and fulfillment. And so, in the midst of a bustling city that never seemed to slow down, Samuel found peace in the quiet moments, solace in the act of observation, and a profound connection to the world and its people. He had mastered the underrated art of patience and silent observation, and in doing so, he had discovered the true essence of life itself. As Samuel sat on his weathered bench, contentment washed over him like a gentle breeze. He knew that he had lived a rich and meaningful life, one filled with moments of deep connection, kindness, and understanding. He had been a silent witness to the ever-changing world around him, and in that silence, he had found a profound sense of purpose. As the years went by, Samuel's health began to decline, and he could no longer make his daily trips to the park. Instead, he spent his days at home, surrounded by the memories of a lifetime spent in quiet observation. People from all walks of life continued to seek him out, visiting his small apartment to share their stories and seek his wisdom. Samuel became a sage, offering guidance through the simple act of listening. On a crisp autumn morning, with the leaves outside his window ablaze in shades of red and gold, Samuel peacefully passed away in his sleep. News of his passing spread throughout the city, and those who had been touched by his presence came to pay their respects. They shared stories of the times they had encountered the Watcher and how his patient listening had made a difference in their lives. At Samuel's memorial service, Emily, the young woman he had comforted all those years ago, stood up to speak. She talked about the day she had met Samuel in the park, how his quiet presence had provided her with the strength to face her challenges, and how he had inspired her to become a better listener herself. Emily's words resonated with everyone in attendance, reminding them of the power of patience and silent observation. In the years that followed, a small park bench in the same park where Samuel had spent so much of his life was dedicated to his memory. It became a place where people could sit and reflect, just as Samuel had done, and where they could find solace in the beauty of the world around them. Samuel's legacy lived on in the hearts of those he had touched, inspiring them to slow down, to observe, and to truly connect with the world and the people in it. The underrated art of patience and silent observation continued to thrive, as more and more people recognized its profound significance in a world that often seemed to move too fast. In the end, Samuel's life had been a testament to the idea that true wisdom could be found in stillness, in the act of listening, and in the beauty of the world as it unfolded before our eyes. His story served as a reminder that in the midst of the noise and chaos of life, there was always room for quiet contemplation and the art of patiently observing the world, one moment at a time.